Hi! Welcome to my end of the year book wrap up. A little bit disappointing wrap up, but a wrap up nonetheless. Hi! It's been a little while since I've sat down and made a video, so I'm kind of happy to be doing that. I'm doing 2 other videos at the moment that are not ready, so a wrap up is just a good way to get back into it and just start talking about books. I mean, I was on the other ones, but you know what I mean. Anyways, my wrap up is, I feel like, a little bit disappointing when you compare it to other people's, but I have to say, I don't know what I have to say for myself. I can't defend myself. I did this to myself. So I thought we would go into stats first, maybe, to see how many books I read, how many pages, genres, and all that situation. Let's just go over it because I feel like that's a really interesting thing to look at. So this year, don't judge me for it, okay? I'm planning on reading more next year, but I feel like for some people this is like a month. So I'm embarrassed, I'm not gonna lie. I read 15 books this year. We're getting started, okay? Now that we have this booktube channel, I feel like I'm gonna keep myself in check, you know? Because, like, what am I gonna make if I'm not reading books? You know? You're gonna keep me in check. Anyways, 15 books this year with a total of 4,806 pages read. We read 8 emotional books, 7 adventurous books, and 8 dark books? 6 dark books, sorry. And then 5 tense books. So that makes up our kind of like pie chart, the biggest ones, and I guess 4 reflective. Page numbers, when we look at it, 40 tied, like 50-50, is like 47%, 300 to 499 pages, and with the other 47% is greater than 300 pages, and only 7% was 500 pages or more. It says that I mostly read dystopian, young adult, and literary, with fantasy and contemporary tying at 4 books. Then we have our graph of the number of books and pages I read. As you can see, there was a dip, a continuous dip, from August through November of just a flat line. Like, something happened there, and she, like, died. We started off semi-strong, dipped in March. That's when I went to visit my family. I don't read on vacation, as I've said, but that's something that does happen. Then I didn't go anywhere. July/August, I took a trip. September, I was here, but I guess I was busy. October, went to visit my family again. November, I was technically reading. I just didn't finish a book, which is inexcusable because that book was only like 200 pages long, I think. And then December, I finished 2 books. So the average rating that I gave books was a 3.1. And I do have to say that it's hard to get like a 5-star. Maybe I'm not reading good books. Maybe that's the problem. 5 stars I don't give those out very often. But when I do, they hit. I have my whole stack of books right here. And I'm just gonna walk you through what I read this year. Read you a synopsis as I always do. Maybe I won't for some because, well known, you know. The first book I read this month was Tender as the Flesh. Listen, you're gonna want to know what this is about before you get into it. So basically in this book, all the meat industry has basically like died. So regular meat has gone away because of some mysterious virus that affected all of the animals. So in order to not get the virus, they stopped producing meat from animals. So what do? They go into getting the meat from humans. You know what that means. Cannibalism. It's a cannibalistic society. So, knowing that, listen, when I started this and I kept reading, I found it super predictable. I knew where it was going, and then, in like the last few pages, it kind of like plot twisted, and I was like, oh, and that was fun. So the book follows Marcos. He is in the human meat industry, and one day he's given a gift. Can you guess what that is? It's a human. It's a human. Because you have to raise them like you would an animal. The thing is that with these particular humans that are raised for meat, you're not supposed to treat them like you would any other person. But of course, things take a turn and he starts to treat her like a human being. And that's where the issue comes in. I'm reading this from the synopsis on Goodreads, so don't say spoiler because it's on the synopsis. So I ended up giving this book a 3.7 out of 5 stars. Predictable, but I did like the ending, kind of changed everything for me, and a good ending is always like a great thing to have. So 3.7 out of 5. I think that's a pretty good way to start off the year. So then I read The Alchemist. Me and The Alchemist have a strange relationship. I read this book in Spanish when I was in high school for my Spanish class, and while I understood it, I didn't understand it, you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, let's have a go at this again, and I read it in English this time. A lot of people have talked about this book. Like, it is a big deal. I don't know if you've heard of it. I'm pretty sure you have. It says that celebrities, when this book came out, were like talking about it. Madonna was seen reading it, the president at the time was seen reading it, and everybody was just raving about this book. And it kind of has to do with, if I'm not mistaken, like spirituality and like going on your correct path and all of these things. And a lot of people talked about it, and I read it too, but again, I didn't really get it. So I don't really read in Spanish all that much, so that definitely had like a factor to play in that. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and read it again, and it frustrated me. It frustrated me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna read you the synopsis first, okay? Combining magic, mysticism, wisdom, and wonder into an aspiring tale of self-discovery, The Alchemist has become a modern classic, selling millions of copies around the world and transforming the lives of countless readers across generations. I can't say it's really changed my life, but I read it and I was like, whoa. It tells the mystical story of Santiago, an Andalusian shepherd boy who yearns to travel in search of a worldly treasure. His quest will lead him to riches far different and far more satisfying than he ever imagined. Santiago's journey teaches us about the essential wisdom of listening to our hearts, recognizing opportunity, and learning to read the omens strewn along life's path, and most importantly, following our dreams. This is what I write all my stuff down for like after I read books. I literally said a lot of interesting things about your life's purpose and how the world will work in your favor to get you what you want. But just when you're close to getting there, there's an obstacle. And that's usually where people tend to give up. That's like a reoccurring theme in this book. Basically telling you like when you like get close, something's gonna come in your way because you have to get over that in order to get where you want to go and where you're meant to be. You know what I mean? Deep. I know. Reflective. That's my reflective book. Crazy. I did say that I liked it, but I got kind of bored in the middle portion. And then a couple frustrating things in the book. Ended up giving it a 3.4 out of 5 stars. But it does transform a lot of people's lives, so maybe read it for yourself, come up with a conclusion, and let me know. The Song of Achilles. I heard about this in like 2021, 2022, when everybody was like raving about it on TikTok. I started to read it in 2022, and then I just stopped. I stopped reading in 2022 at some point for a few months, so I stopped reading it. I picked it up because I knew I wanted to read it. I heard a lot of great things. As you know, it's a, maybe you don't know, it's a, what's it called? A retelling of the Iliad. So it's a love story, basically, between Patroclus and Achilles. That's all I'm gonna say, because I feel like you already know what it is. Maybe you read it, let me know. I liked it. At the time, like right before I read this book, I watched Troy, which more or less tells you the story in simpler terms, but there's no love story. But I felt like that kind of like ruined the, what's it called? How involved I get in the story, because I knew how it was going to end. I knew what was going to happen and everything in between. So I didn't know it was a retelling of the Iliad at the time, but I did like it. I rated it at 3.7 out of 5 stars, and I had some things to say about some certain characters. But yeah, I liked it. I just, listen, I didn't cry. Does that make me cold-hearted? Because I know everybody cried. But maybe it's because I knew the story, right? Because maybe if I hadn't known the story, I would have cried. So the Song of Achilles. Let's move on. This is where we get into our Hunger Games saga. We are gonna put the first three in, I'm gonna put this in like the time slot, you know, the first three, and then we're gonna talk about the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, because I don't want to take the Hunger Games with the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. We're gonna talk about that. The first Hunger Games, gorgeous start to the franchise, to the what's it called, series, the trilogy. Wonderful start, loved it, slay Suzanne. When I was reading it, I did think that the Hunger Games adaptation was a pretty good adaptation. Few things missing here and there, but overall, I don't know why I'm talking about the movie, it was good. I feel like if I hadn't watched the movies, even though that would have been literally impossible because I watched them when they came out when I was like 11, but maybe it would have hit on a whole new level if this was just brand new. I hadn't known the story at all. I bet it would have been like fantastic. Really good. I rated it a 3.9 out of 5 stars. So yeah. Oh, we're gonna talk about PETA. We're gonna talk about PETA. We're gonna talk about him, okay? Catching Fire, my baby. I love Catching Fire. This was it's my favorite movie out of the 4 and my favorite book out of the series. I loved Catching Fire. I love this book so much. I love this book. I love it. I love it. I love it. If I could make a reading vlog about this series, please, you would see me sobbing at the end of Mockingjay. That's what you would see. Like, the way I cried. We'll get to that. I remember this movie less than the Hunger Games. So look, when it comes to the Hunger Games movies, at the time, I remembered the Hunger Games way less about Catching Fire, and basically nothing about Mockingjay. So that was kind of good. I remembered as I was reading, but Mockingjay was a whole new thing for me, I think. But Chef's Kiss, love it. Solid book, but I wish it had been more of the games. 3.7 out of 5 stars. I rated that less than the first one? Listen, I do not stand with her. Right now, in my book, this is a 4.2 out of 5. I don't stand with my original thing. It's a 3.7. I don't know how I feel about this. We're gonna give this a mystery rating until I reread. Maybe we should reread Mockingjay. It was around this time that I actually got COVID. So it took me a little bit longer to get through this one. It took me much longer. I didn't read that entire week. I tried to, and my eyes were like burning. So I was like, I gotta stop. I'm gonna read you this because I wrote so much about PETA, and I find it very entertaining. I'm most literally crying over Peter right now. He loved Katniss so much and didn't think his family needed him to the point where he would have sacrificed himself for her. He deserves so much better. I'm literally crying in all caps. Gale is a piece. I'm not gonna, but you know what I meant to say. I never want to hear anything more about him. Seriously though, PETA deserves so much better. Overall, I enjoyed the book. Just thought that some parts could have been condensed. Loved Katniss's relationship with Joanna. Last few pages were really good though, 3.4 out of 5 stars. But this was my least favorite out of all of them. Still a really solid book. The relationship between Katniss and Joanna, I don't know why I keep saying Joanna, so upset that wasn't in the movie. That is criminal to me. Criminal. Honestly, we need a whole mini-series about their adventures together because, for real. Anyway. I literally just finished filming this video, but I wanted to add, because I just remembered. PETA is my ultimate book boyfriend. I just had to add that. Because he is everything to me. I love him so much, and I just had to add that because I forgot to say it. And it's an abomination that I even forgot to say it because I love that boy. I love him and I will love him forever. He deserves so much more. Like, they did to him what he was scared that would happen to him from the beginning. Like, he was like, I want to go into this and I want to come out myself. And what did Snow do? He went and he like literally made him turn against Katniss, the girl he's loved since he was in school. And he still came back to her. He still did. And And I love him. I love him so much. He deserves so much more. He deserves so much more. And you get it. You get it though, right? I love him. I love him so much. I'm done. Goodbye. Now we move on to the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I didn't put this in my... I originally recorded my first video were the books after I read the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I said multiple times in that video that I hated it, and it put me in a slump. It put me in a full-fledged reading slump. It took me about a month to get through, and I was only reading it because the movie was coming out in whenever it came out, November. So here it is. Okay, ready? Oh, whoop, jump scare. Anyway. I know, listen, I wasn't interested in reading this book. I feel like a lot of people weren't, and then they read it and they were like, oh my god, it's so good. No, it wasn't. Respectfully, you're wrong. I'm sorry. You're gonna say, Nicole, you just didn't get it. And I'll be like, yes, I did. I get it. I just, whatever. Anyways, it says, it took me exactly 4 weeks to get through. Forever. I expected more. I admit that, one, I didn't really want to read this after Mockingjay. I just wanted a break from the universe. That could have took a toll on the way I perceived this book, yes. And two, I'm pretty sure I started going through a reading slump about 100 pages or so in, and I started playing Animal Crossing. Either way, I wanted this book to be so much more than it was. I wanted to know bits and pieces of Snow's life that lead to him being the person that he became. Listen, I remember this. When they told me it was like a story about Snow, I thought we were gonna start, you know, from when he was like maybe like a teenager, like it did, but I thought it was gonna take me through like how he became the person that he did. Like, how did he start from point A and get to be the person that he was in the entire Hunger Games series? You know, like the little things that created this whole Snow empire and the reason he was like a literal awful person. And you're gonna say, you low-key got it. And I'm gonna be like, low-key did not. I want to see, like how Finnick said that he was like poisoning people and everything. I want to see why he did that. What did he gain from it? And all of these things. Did I like the part about the games and how he contributed to the modern day Hunger Games? Yes, I did. Ate that up. The games were... Listen, I watched the movie. It was a good portion of the movie. It's like, I think if I remember correctly, less than 100 pages. I was appalled. I was appalled. Lucy Gray wasn't even... I didn't like Lucy Gray, I'm not gonna lie to you. Lucy Gray disappears into the tunnels in the book as well as the movie. Except in the movie, you can see her. In the book, she disappears completely. What's happening to her? You never know. Is she dead? Is she alive? Don't know until she comes out. Whatever. The aspect of the games were interesting, everything that happened, but everything after was like, I was shocked, honestly, that he became a peacekeeper, but I didn't really care. I didn't care. I feel like I just like the stuff about the games and how they became what they were. So Snow's father's involvement in the Hunger Games in general, how it was created, Casca Highbottom's involvement also, how Snow's father played him from the beginning. Honestly, Casca Highbottom kind of like, I get why you're mad, but like, don't take it out on his son, you know? But like, I get it. Like, I know you see your old best friend and his son, and that may be a red flag, but like, maybe nurture, and maybe he'll turn out different. You just like fully went in on him, like, get out of here, like expulsion kind of level. And I was like, nature, nurture, please.
He needs is to be nurtured.
But in the end, thought it could have been 200 pages shorter, and I gave it a 2.7 out of 5 stars. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. I'm sorry. Was the movie better? Honestly, I think so. Because it got me in and out in like about 2 hours. And it took me 4 weeks to get through this. But like, however, Miss Suzanne, I will read any other like Hunger Games book you put out. Listen, between you and me and everybody else in this world, we want a Finnick book and a Haymitch book. Please. begging. Joanna, God, would be great too. In which order do I want them? Honestly, Finnick, almost tied with Haymitch, and then Joanna. Okay? Okay. After that, I read Fragments of Horror by Junji Ito. I don't know why I always say his name when I say it out loud. A collection of short stories, horror short stories. Pretty good. Had some pretty good stories. I think 4 overall that I liked, and I really want to read more by him. I'm not gonna lie. The art was like great. Hold on, let's flip through it. I'm not gonna show it for too long because like spoilers, but like I liked it. I would read more. I expected a little bit more, but honestly I really liked it. I would check out another one. Overall, for this collection of short stories, I gave it a 3.4 out of 5 stars. Some that I really liked and some that were okay. But it's a horror book. Was I terrified? No. But entertaining, nonetheless. Check it out. Then I read Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer. I expected a lot from this book. I expected tears to be streaming down my face, and I didn't get that. So, it says, an exquisitely moving portrait of an elderly man's struggle to hold on to his most precious memories, and his family's efforts to care for him even as they must find a way to let go. Sad premise, okay execution. I also thought it was like an interesting premise, which it was, but execution? I don't know. I expected a lot from this book. So in the end, I only gave it a 2.8 out of 5 stars. It's only 70 something pages, 78 I think. So I mean, fast read. Check it out if you want. I'm not gonna say I recommend it, but like, if you want. Then I read And Then There Were None. If you haven't seen the video where I read And Then There Were None, I would check that out because this book threw me for a loop for a little bit, and then I realized I was missing the last like 10 pages or something like that. Agatha Christie, one of her like best-selling books like ever. It's about this group of people who get an invitation to go to an island and the host is not there. And slowly, day by day, people get picked off one by one. So you're trying to figure out who did it, what's the purpose, you know, why are they doing this, and all of that. I would recommend it. I predicted an ending for this book when I hadn't read the last 10 pages, and my my ending, I feel like, was like great in my head. And then I read the last 10 pages and I was like, oh. So, I gave it a 3.3 out of 5 stars. Solid nonetheless. Fun read. Check it out. Then we have the only 5-star read of this year. And only 1 out of 2 in my entire life. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Also in the video that I mentioned before. This book made me feel so much. It is the first book that I ever annotated, and it was such a good idea I had to annotate this book. Because having my thoughts written in a book that I read for the first time, as I was thinking, as I was feeling, was like brilliance. It's my first annotated book, so it's a little messy, it's a little ugly, but I love her. We went through a lot together. I would always recommend this book. If you're not into character-driven books, though, it's probably not for you. Because honestly, like, nothing much happens in this book. It's more like characters. It's about a girl who basically sells her soul to the devil, and he, in one way, grants her wish, but in the other way curses her, so she can now live forever, but no one will ever remember her. So by remember her, if you literally turn around, you won't remember that you just met her. Nobody will know her name, her face. It's kind of impossible to get around the world if nobody remembers you, you know? So it's kind of like her life throughout the years. It takes place on a current timeline, and then it kind of like divides. There are like different layers. So you see in her past while also coming back to the future and kind of like being like, wait, what happened there? What happened here? You know? Really good. I love this book with all of my heart. It was a 5 out of 5 stars. The best decision I ever made to read this book. I love it so much. Please check it out. I'm begging you to please check it out. I know some people didn't like this book. I did, and I am a defender forever. I love her. With very high highs, there has to have very low lows. After that, I decided I wanted to read something a little bit more fun and lighthearted. I judged a book by its cover when I saw it at Barnes & Noble, and I was like, that's a cute cover. And it is a cute cover. It was a very, very, very cute cover. So right after I read my 5-star read, I read my 1-star read. This is possibly the worst book I have ever read in my entire life. I'm sorry. It is about, so it's called Love in the Time of Serial Killers. Basically she has a neighbor who just moved in, I think. I'm gonna read you the back. PhD candidate Phoebe Walsh has always been obsessed with true crime. I love true crime. I think it's really interesting. She's even analyzing the genre in her dissertation, if she can manage to finish writing it. It's hard to find time while she spends the summer in Florida cleaning out her childhood home, dealing with her obnoxiously good-natured younger brother, and grappling with the complicated feelings of mourning her father she hadn't had a relationship with for years. It doesn't help that she's low-key convinced that her new neighbor, Sam Dennings, is a serial killer. He may dress business casual by day, but by night he's clearly up to something. It's not long before Phoebe realizes that Sam might be something much scarier. A genuinely nice guy who can pierce her armor to reach her vulnerable heart. I didn't read this description when I picked up the book. That was cheesy. Listen. Cover art is like great though, honestly. It's like really pretty. Don't judge a book by its cover. It might be pretty, but the inside was literally awful. I said, Phoebe, the main character, is as insufferable as they come. She's annoying and can't communicate for the life of her. Like, I was rooting for this not to work out. Like, it's a rom? I was gonna say rom-com, but it's like a, what are they called? Romance? Like, I was rooting, like, I liked her to the point where I wished that the relationship did not work out. Because honestly, she did not deserve the man that she had. I literally said in my mini review, like what it said in the back. Because like when you look at the cover, I thought it was gonna be like, oh, like she's trying to date and there's like a serial killer around and she's trying to like avoid the serial killer. So I fully thought that like somebody was like after her. But I realized very fast that it was just a girl writing her dissertation and throws out the entire title of the book. And basically, I want to say about less than 100 pages. I basically said she was annoying and a pretty mean person to everybody around her. And none of the characters were really that interesting. And I didn't vibe with anybody. I also didn't really think that they had any chemistry at all. But what can you say? I read it though, so would not recommend this. I gave it a 1 out of 5 stars. We're moving on. And with this, we're down to our last 3 books. After that one, I read Under the Whispering Door. I remember I was reading this during the 4th of July. I liked it, okay? Under the Whispering Door. When a reaper comes to collect Wallace from his own funeral, Wallace begins to suspect he might be dead. And when Hugo, the owner of a peculiar tea shop, promises to help him cross over, Wallace decides he's definitely dead. Even in death, he's not ready to abandon the life he barely lived. So when Wallace is given 1 week to cross over, he sets about living a lifetime in 7 days. Hilarious, haunting, and kind, Under the Whispering Door is an uplifting story about a life spent at the office and a death spent building a home. I really like this book, okay? I didn't know what to expect going in. I had been seeing this book for months before I actually decided to get it, and honestly, the cover caught my eye. It's always me judging books by their covers. I mean, I really didn't know anything about this book going in. I think I read like 1 sentence and it said he's dead, and I was like, whoa, spoiler. And then on the first page, he literally dies, and I was like, oh. This is the 2nd book I annotated. This is actually really funny. He never got the chance. Instead, 2 days later, Wallace Price died. He did what? Annotating books I'm now finding so fun because you can go back and like read them and see all of your thoughts. Like, that's so cute. I That's so cute. This book did make me cry towards the end. I'm not gonna lie to you. I really liked it, okay? I thought his character development was really nice to witness, especially who he was at the beginning of the book. Really great. Gorgeous characterization, character development. And I just really liked everybody working at the tea shop. We have a lot of supporting characters in this book, and honestly, all of them seem really very well, very good, very seemed fleshed out. What is it called? God. It was just very fleshed out, and the characters had their own personality, unlike this book. So like it's like contrasting because good characters, awful characters. Good main character and character development, no character development at all that I remember. I found some things to be predictable in this book, and I also was not a very big fan of the way that this ended. So I did give it a 3.6 out of 5 stars. If some things would have changed, it could have gone to a 4-star. But based on everything that's there, 3.6 out of 5. Still really good. Would recommend it. It's really cute. Go check it out. Then we read Normal People. I actually started a book. I started a video on this, and I'm waiting to read a few more books to have that in like a little series. But it's very hyped up, and I was expecting a lot from a book that is this hyped up. And I have to say that I don't agree with the hype. I felt that there was no, I don't know why I'm mentioning character development so much, but I feel like there was no development whatsoever from beginning to end. There was no change in anything. Like the way it started, like the way this book is set up, okay. It skips weeks, months in between each chapter, so you're kind of always trying to fill in the blank, which is interesting in the beginning, and then it gets kind of annoying because you're kind of like wondering what happened, like give me what happened there. I'm still wondering. And when you don't spend that time with your characters, I feel like there's a big gap of what their personality is and your understanding of them, you know? You can't really know a person when you only spend a few pages with them every couple of chapters. You spend a good majority every couple of chapters. But let's start off with the what's it called? What it's about. Connell and Marianne grew up in the same small town, but the similarities end there. At school, Connell is popular and well-liked, while Marianne is a loner. But when the two strike up a conversation, awkward but electrifying, something life-changing begins. Normal People is a story about mutual fascination, friendship, and love. It takes us from the first conversation to years beyond, in the company of two people who try to stay apart but find that they can't. Mutual fascination, they were obsessed with each other, but listen, it was obsession, I feel like. Don't attack me, okay? I know how beloved this book is. I just don't agree. I don't agree, and that's where I'm gonna end it, okay? I'm gonna end it there. I gave it a 3.3 out of 5 stars because I was scared of giving it a 3.2 out of 5 stars. Somewhere in the middle. But if nobody was judging me, I would give it a 3.2 out of 5 stars. Moving on. Then, this is the book that I finished, when did I finish this? A few days ago. I finished it, before Christmas or on Christmas. The Summer I Turned Pretty. I watched the first season of the show, and I have to say there are very big differences, I feel like, in my head between this book and the show. So if you don't know, I'm going to tell you about it. When the summer begins, Belly leaves her school life behind and escapes to Cousin's Beach, the place she spent every summer of her life. Not only does the beach house mean home away from home, but her favorite people are there. Susanna, her mother's best friend, and her sons, Conrad and Jeremiah. Belly has been chasing Conrad for as long as she can remember, and more than anything, she hopes this summer will be different. Despite the distractions from a new guy named Cam, and lingering looks from Conrad's brother Jeremiah, Belly's heart belongs to Conrad. Will he offer his to her? Will this be the summer that changes everything? Really cute. Honestly, I really did like this book. It's a YA romance. I enjoyed it for what it was. Honestly, I thought it was really entertaining. I liked it. I liked it, okay? I love Susanna. Um, Team Conrad or Team Jeremiah? I was in between the two the entire book, so I was like, So, I can't really say I'm on a solid team right now. But yeah, look out for a video about this coming soon. And that wraps up my sad little wrap up for 2023. I say sad because I feel like so many people read more than me, and I feel like this is a good start to booktube. Maybe, you know? I did what I could. I did spend months not reading, but that's fine. I need a little break sometimes. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've read any of the books that I've read, have differing opinions, or agree with me on some things, let me know. And maybe let me know what books you read this year. How many books did you read? Is how many books I've read okay? What do you think about that? Anyways, thanks for sticking with me. I'll see you next year. Happy New Year, by the way. Happy holidays, Happy New Year. Hope you had fun today. Yeah. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next year sometime soon. I'll get reading, I promise. I'm gonna read more this year. And yeah. Thanks for being here. I keep saying thanks for being here. Thankful for you. Okay. Bye.